KCC311. Last week, we talked about different types of data. Now let's make sure we know the different types of charts and graphs that go with them. In particular, our different types of data. We had quantitative, we had time, we had locations, we had categories. All those different types of data. Let's make sure we know what graphs go with each. And another thing, we talked about temporal data. Another word you're going to use, and I'll kind of swap out between both of them, is temporal or time sequence data. So anyways, first up, categorical data. Did you win the game? Did you lose the game? Male and female, that sort of thing. So what if I interviewed 50 people and said, are you male and female, and got some responses? Well, a pie chart is a good way to visualize that data, say how many of, relatively speaking, how many are in each category. Another equivalent way to do that is categorical data. You'll see this bar graph shows me males come out ahead in terms of this survey. And another more elaborate type is sort of an, it's called an icon graph. We use little icons appropriate to each category and show us the relative amount of both. So pie charts, bar charts, and icon charts are three different ways we can represent categorical graph. Now, however, if we're talking about, hey, what's your favorite football team, we might get answers all over the place. And our pie chart might end up looking like this, or our bar chart might end up looking like that. So what we got to understand is both of those, I'm kind of getting a little information overload, overwhelmed, all the colors, that sort of thing. So you need to be careful if there's too many categories. Look at the second version, that if I said other teams, and that sort of reduces the amount of extra pie slices or extra bar charts going on in a categorical data. So that's for categorical data. Next up, let's talk about geographical data. I interview some exchange students. Where are you from? I get these different answers. And you might say, well, that's categorical. You can make a pie chart. Yeah, we could. But we could get a little more interesting. We draw a little map. Different colors, and you see up in the corner here, the different colors represent different amounts of students. And this is a basic chart, but it is a nice visual. The colors add a nice dimension. And honestly, this is not too fancy. You can go to that little website right there, mapchart.net, and you can make one of these in about 5 minutes. It's fairly simple. However, geographical data, where somebody is from, we could also use more elaborate. Say, this is the city of Chicago, and now we're looking at the incomes in 1980, and the different colors, the red and the blue, talking about things going up or down, and these sort of things. So this is a more elaborate way to represent geographical data, where somebody lives and their income. We'll get here. This will take a little bit of time, but we do have the basic colored map, and we have the heat maps, two ways to talk about geographical data. We'll get there later on in the term. Time sequence data. This is a little more basic. We'll see some of these things as well. See, speaking of Chicago, here's the population of Chicago over time. You might recognize that format. That's straight out of Wikipedia. But how can I represent this graphically? A nice little dot plot effectively shows me how things change over time. And you notice that on the horizontal axis, the x-axis on the bottom, that is time. Always. Every single time you have time sequence data, temporal data, the x-axis, the horizontal axis, that's time. That's the time. Another example, let's talk stocks. Let's talk money. Here's a Google stock price, and you'll see over time it's rising. Okay, so I can graph that using a line plot right here. It's really a dot plot with a line in between it. And also another way, a bar chart is an effective way you can see the general trend of a stock price. So all three ways, the dot plot, the line plot, the bar chart, all effective ways to talk about time sequence data. Look at right there. X-axis, time. Every single instance. And I think our last one is the quantitative data. Let's pretend I talk about the age of hotel guests. And I survey a bunch of my hotel guests and I get some information. A bar chart is really excellent here. Another word you'll hear me use is histogram. Those histograms tell me what category, which group, which class is another way people will talk about that of guests do I have and how many. Another way we can do it is an area chart. It gives it the same information with a slightly different appearance. One more time, let's review that. Categorical data. We got pie charts, we got bar charts, we have icon charts. Geographical data. We have your colored maps, and we have your heat maps. Time sequence data, we're going to look for line graphs, dot plots, bar graphs. Last one, the quantitative data, we have our histograms, and we have area graphs. You've seen all the different types of data, different types of graphs. I'm going to have you go check out the comprehension check in Blackboard. Just review these, test your knowledge. Any questions? You can take that test up to 3 times, and you can also reach out to me if you have questions.